Welcome to Real Talk, where I give real answers to real questions from real worship leaders. If you are a real worship leader with a real question and you want a real answer, head right here and submit your question for a future episode. There's also a link in the description below. Got some good questions this week? Let's talk about it. 2 months ago, we started implementing your approach to arranging our worship songs through your 3 YouTube videos on the subject. We feel it's enhanced our sung worship leading quite significantly and look forward to improving to an even greater level as we build up our experience. However, although we seem to make a decent job of contemporary worship songs with their mix of verses, choruses, and bridges, we find it difficult to identify appropriate levels of quiet, medium, loud sections with hymns. Take Holy, 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 for example, which I believe is the one you're referring to in your 29-song worship repertoire YouTube video. Could you offer any guidance for such hymns, please? Yes, Terry, that is the song that I'm talking about in that video. If you're wondering about the videos that Terry is talking about, I will link them all down in the description below. There are apparently 3 where I teach. I don't know how many there are, but apparently Terry's watched 3 about worship song arrangement, and then there's one where I talk about my worship song repertoire, all the songs that we sing at my church. But if you watch that video of the worship song repertoire, you'll find that there are a lot of hymns in there. There's some contemporary songs, which are, I don't know, nowadays they're more just modern hymns in my repertoire. But I do a lot of hymns at my church, and I have had to deal with this exact question. You know, it's so easy to just copy the arrangement of a modern worship song because they're produced by a producer, and you can tell your worship team, hey, just learn your specific parts, listen to the recording, and you can make them your own eventually, but learn what they play on the recording, and then just come in whenever they come in, cut out whenever they cut out, play the parts that they're playing. But when it comes to hymns, it's not so easy, especially if you're just taking chord sheets of popular hymns and trying to come up with your own arrangement, which is what I have done. First of all, let me say I don't always start from zero. I love Nathan Drake's Reawaken Hymns YouTube channel, because he's already done a lot of the work for you. So if you want, probably, I don't know how many hymns he has on there by now. He's been doing it for a while. So shout out to Nathan Drake. I'll link his YouTube channel down in the description below. But I usually always start by going to his website and listening to his version of hymns. And sometimes he even has 2 versions on there because he recorded a version a while ago of like an acoustic version of it. And then nowadays he's been putting out a lot of full band arrangements too. And he does a really good job of staying true to just like the original arrangement of the hymn. He's not adding a bunch of verses or changing the melody. So I'll link his channel down below. But for me, when it comes to me and my team, I'll start by looking at Reawaken Hymns, and then I will adapt it from there and kind of make it my own. And so when it comes to a song like Holy, 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 I'll walk you through an example. In Holy, 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 there are 4 verses. So in the first verse, we'll keep it quiet. It'll be Holy, 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 Lord God Almighty. And it'll just be me playing. I have me and a keyboard player usually on Sundays. So I will play with acoustic, and I will sing that first verse by myself. Then we do a little instrumental between verse 1 and verse 2, and that's when my keyboardist comes in, and he just comes in lightly in the instrumental, and in verse 2 it's lighter, and I might even do like some palm muting in verse 2 to kind of build it a little bit. And then after that, we're like not quite all in on the instrumental after verse 2, but we're louder there. But then verse 3, we kick in like that is the loudest verse, and it's Holy, 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 though the darkness hide thee, though the eye of sinful man thy glory cannot see, or whatever the words are. And we're like in full there. After verse 3, we play the instrumental and we cut out into verse 4, and that's more, I always call it a cappella, but it's not really a cappella because usually either me or my keyboard player is playing like very quietly just to keep the rhythm going there. And so if you take a look at the whole structure of the song, like I talk about in the arrangement videos that I've put together, you will see this natural progression of, okay, we start quiet, verse 2 is a little bit louder, in Holy, 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 verse 3 is the climax, and then we slam back down to a quieter verse 4, almost a cappella. And generally, I will use that process for most hymns. I'm not going to say all hymns. I'm trying to think of what other hymns I do that on. Probably like Crown Him with Many Crowns, I'll do that on. Probably on Rock of Ages we'll do the same thing. That is like the default go-to arrangement for hymns for us, is relatively quiet on verse 1. Verse 2 is, I call it chunky. If you're a guitar player, you know what chunky means. You're chunking along with palm muting. Verse 3 is the climax. Verse 4, we cut back to a cappella. If you want to see tangible examples of that, I'll link a video down below where I just reviewed my live stream. And in that live stream, we play 4 hymns, so you can hear exactly what it sounds like. But at the end of the day, if you want to be quote-unquote creative with your arrangements, I'm not really that creative. Like I said, I have my default, but I'm thinking, when do I deviate out of my default? And it's usually because of the words in the song. This is something I talk about with my keyboard player, is what is the song communicating? What truth is this song communicating? And how do we use the music to prop up that truth so it's better highlighted? And I think of the song Rock of Ages. We'll do quiet in verse 1, Rock of Ages, cleft for me, let me hide myself in thee. And then verse 2, chunky, not the labors of my hands can fulfill thy law's demands. And then verse 3 is like, we do like this down strum building all the time, where it is, whatever the words are, I can't think of verse 3, but I know that in the second half of verse 3, it's the part where it's like, helpless come to thee, or naked come to thee for dress, helpless come to thee for grace. And we're building the whole time, naked come to thee for dress, helpless come to thee for grace. And then we cut out on foul I to the fountain fly, to kind of like really highlight that line, because I feel like that's such a strong line that I don't want it to be lost. And so we cut out, and I hit like a little harmonic, and it's just, foul I to the fountain fly, and it draws people in to hear that line. And then we hit it hard, wash me, Savior, or I die, and we hit that part really hard. So things like that, just think about like, what is the song saying, and how can I use the arrangement of this song to highlight that truth? I lead worship in a small congregation with sometimes only an acoustic guitar. Is it worth it to use acoustic guitar pedals for better sounds? If yes, any particular pedal you would suggest? If you want more help leading worship with just an acoustic guitar, I'll link a video down below for that where I talk about how to lead worship with just an acoustic guitar. I think I talked for like 20 minutes on that, and in that video, I do not mention one time using pedals to lead with an acoustic guitar. And here's the thing, I'm not against using effects pedals, I suppose, to lead with an acoustic guitar. I could see how if you want to be a little more creative than perhaps I am whenever you're leading worship, I mean, go for it. Don't let it become a distraction. Like, make sure that it actually serves the songs and you're not just adding guitar pedals for the sake of adding guitar pedals. I'm trying to think what I never use guitar pedals, so I'm probably not the best person to ask, but maybe I am the best person to ask, because I will tell you that you do not need guitar pedals, especially to lead with an acoustic guitar. Of course you need them if you're going to play electric, because that's kind of the point of playing electric, is you have those effects. But you asked, is it worth it? And I think for me, it's not worth it. I'm not saying that it would never be worth it for anyone. Some of you can flawlessly incorporate that, and you like, I don't know, some of you, I'm trying to think how complicated you could make it. You add like reverb and delay, and you get a looper pedal, and you end up creating a really cool sound, I guess. And for some of you, you could pull that off. Now, that's like a very specific person who can pull that off, and it's not a distraction. I think of, what's his name? Josh Wilson does that. I think Josh Wilson, if you know who he is, he always does like looping arrangements of songs, and they sound really good. Would I do that on a Sunday morning? Probably not. I think one of the strengths of leading with just an acoustic guitar is the simplicity of it. So the more you add to just you playing an acoustic guitar, the more it takes away from that simplicity. And I think that that's what people appreciate about just being led with an acoustic guitar. Don't feel like you have to compensate for not having a full band. Your congregation is the main voice of worship. So we are there at the end of the day to simply support their singing. And you don't need bells and whistles to do that. I'm not saying that you can't ever use extra things in worship. I mean, I think of some, more traditional churches where it's not just an organ, it's like a full orchestra leading, right? That's sort of just the traditional approach of adding more things to worship. So I never really get it when traditional people are like, I can't stand a full band, and worship on Sunday is just a show because they have guitars and bass and stuff. And then I look at some churches and they have a full orchestra leading on Sunday, and I'm like, you know what? That's kind of just the same thing, but you're doing the traditional version of it. So either quit complaining about the modern version of it, or, I don't know, get rid of your orchestra. So long story short, no, you didn't ask if you needed it, but no, you don't need pedals. Is it worth it? Most of the time, probably not. Just plug into a direct box, call it a day. I'm thinking of Phil Wickham as well, because if you listen to his sing-along albums, I think he's got like a delay, if I remember correctly, where he makes it sound, I don't know, it just like keeps this cool rhythm going. Maybe that supports your church being able to sing if there's a more consistent rhythm. I'm just trying to think of instances where I might use that. But I regularly lead from just acoustic guitar, and I do not have any pedals. Now, if you are an acoustic guitar player and you want to learn how to lead worship well with just an acoustic guitar, it's not a necessity, but several years ago I put out like 100 advanced guitar tutorials. So if you lead with just an acoustic and you want to start adding some interesting things in your playing, not pedals, but like in the arrangement of the songs, I'll link that playlist of those tutorials down in the description below. I'll also link down there 25 advanced guitar chords that you can start implementing into your guitar playing that will make your guitar playing not just like the standard, hey, I'm playing a G, and then I'm playing a C, and then I'm playing a D, and then I'm playing an E minor, but they are advanced guitar chords. All you have to do is substitute them with the normal guitar chords that you already use, and it'll make you sound like an advanced guitar player. So check that out down in the description below. Other than that, until I see you in the next video, keep leading worship well.